We believe that if you are a single-parent household or a low-income household, you can't afford to have a parent in the home all the time, and that you end up with an economic inequity of access using public resources. So unless the virtual school program is done in conjunction with the classroom setting, those dollars ought not, public dollars ought not flow that way, because there are equity questions around that. We ensure that public dollars support the optimal age level for online learning, and that's middle school and high school. This also ensures that income and language barriers of elementary students whose families cannot afford to or don't have enough English skills to homeschool them don't result in unequal access to public programs. We do have an exception for elementary programs that are based in a school setting. It is, you have a document from me that is a research piece that we did that shows all the online programs that are available that charge tuition, and you can see that the annual cost for a full course load, and some of them are as low as $800 a student, and yet these programs are getting roughly $6,000, a little less when they take the administrator fee off. It's about $5,700 near as I can tell. So this interim work group could take a look at what it really does cost to educate a laptop student versus a brick-and-mortar student.
When I was in graduate school 25 years ago, we thought that really all neural firing and wiring was done by the age of 3. And what we know now in just that 25 years is that neural wiring is occurring in robust ways all the way up to age 18, and now we're even looking beyond. We know that the brain during the school age years is wiring for some specific things. It's wiring in the areas of relationship, emotional attunement, abstract thinking, retention and recall, and self and other structure. Neuroscientists are also paying a lot of attention to a region of the brain which they now believe to be the CEO of the brain, or the place where all executive functioning of the individual occurs. It's right behind the frontal lobe. It's called the prefrontal cortex. And the only thing that they can show for sure that develops the prefrontal cortex is relational attunement. That means that learning that takes place within a relational environment where people are bumping up against other people, against their own feelings and the feelings of others, that learning is more significant, more robust, and more long-lasting than anything that happens on a screen. What we know is that learning that includes 3 things tends to be most robust in terms of both working memory and long-term storage, and that is learning that occurs with concrete experienceable manipulatives, meaning when people have the ability to touch things, to feel them, to experience them, the learning tends to be encoded in the brain more robustly. Also, learning that takes place within the context of relational attunement, which basically means emotionally evocative stimuli. We all remember things where we're very scared or where we're very excited. We remember teachers who, created a relationship with us. Now, some online learning can do that. However, if all we have is screen forms of stimulation that miss that portion of the brain that account for relational attunement, the learning scientifically will not be as robust both in recall and in working memory.
We have served elementary students. Probably the youngest student we've served is probably a 4th grader who is ready for essentially high school level math. But the younger the student, the greater, in our experience, the younger the student, the greater support both the school and parents have to provide and have to be prepared to provide.
The pieces of the bill that we think are the most important are making the 50% requirement unwaivable. When we first put the Oregon Virtual Schools District in place in statute, we never anticipated that we would need to be sitting here talking about this again. It was always our understanding that online schools were a great addition to our public school system, but would never be meant as a replacement for the brick and mortar schools. We believe that the 50% unwaivable is very important. We also believe that the prohibition against full-time online school for primary grade students is also important. My folks are very supportive of the charter schools and the online schools in their districts with restraint. They believe that small children need the social interaction of a classroom. They need to hear the questions that the other students pose when they're discussing issues, because those kinds of interactions help them bring their subjects into a place where they make sense to these kids. They think that social interaction in schools for small children is a very important part of what we do in our schools, and so they think that this provision in 767-3 is very important.
I mentioned that I wear a number of hats, and as president of the Oregon Science Teachers Association, I would like to say for the record that OSTA has some grave reservations about the ability of students using online learning options to meet the new essential skills. Scientific inquiry and being able to perform process skills is something that requires lab work, something that requires interaction face-to-face, or at least interaction of an intense nature that allows people to question, allows people to challenge, and allows people to ultimately defend their understandings of science. This is what we expect our students to do here in the state. It certainly should be something we expect students in an online environment to do. And at this point, the Oregon Science Teachers Association does not believe that can be effectively done in an online environment.